when you've been through a lot of different challenges in your life, you build a muscle and some tolerance to that. I don't see my journey as like, oh my God, I feel bad for myself. I feel really lucky and I feel a deep, deep sense of gratitude.
You're listening to What Fuels You, where we deep dive with CEOs, entrepreneurs, and business leaders to learn more about their stories and uncover nuggets of wisdom we can all use. I'm your host, Shauna Swerland, CEO of Fuel Talent, an award-winning recruiting firm based in Seattle. Today's guest on the What Fuels You podcast is Ardie Sameti, co-founder and CEO of Scala. Ardie is part of a new generation of Northwest leaders rethinking how AI can solve one of the biggest challenges in enterprise operations, the ability to act on customer data in real time. At Scala AI, Ardie is solving that problem. He's building an AI platform that unifies enterprise data and turns it into actionable intelligence, helping leaders see what's happening across their operations, respond faster, and empower their teams to perform at their best. His approach is practical, transparent, and deeply aligned with how people and organizations actually work. Before founding Scala, he spent nearly a decade at Accolade, leading AI and platform initiatives inside high-volume healthcare operations, supporting millions of member interactions. Ardie and his wife, Ali, are raising their 3 young kids in Kirkland, and he remains deeply engaged in the Pacific Northwest startup and community ecosystem. Welcome, Ardie. So good to see you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me. I'm super grateful to be on. I'm an actual listener, so this is pretty cool for me. Some of the guests you have on are amazing. So
Including
thank you for
you.
having me.
So yeah, no, I'm psyched. Okay, rapid fire. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Probably both, unfortunately. So I definitely am a morning person, and I stay up pretty late working
I'm the same
after
way.
putting the kids down.
Yeah. So when you get up, what's the first thing you do?
Ooh, coffee and checking emails and working.
Oh my God, we're like same. Okay, what was your first concert?
LL Cool J.
Nice.
Yeah, it was at the Gorge, and it was like Jermaine Dupri. This was like late '90s. Yes, this was mid '90s, late '90s. It was pretty great. It was awesome. The lineup was pretty impressive. Big hip hop guy.
So am I, huge.
I get made fun of a little bit by my friends. I'm kind of stuck in the '90s,
So am
'90s
I. Well, because
music,
that's the best
movies.
old school hip hop.
Yes. Hip
Yeah,
hop,
no,
rap, Nas,
no,
Tupac, all
yeah.
that stuff.
Oh
I
yeah,
love all
of
that stuff.
course. Are you Biggie or Tupac?
I'm both. I'm both. I'm not, but I'm more Nas. I'm a huge fan of Nas.
Well, Nas is the best. Okay, so if you weren't in tech, what would you be doing?
Oh, well, before tech, I was a restaurant owner and I was a small business owner.
I saw that.
So I'd be doing something entrepreneurial and probably doing something on the small business side. Obviously would love to be an athlete in my mind, but I'm not at all.
What sport would you
Five
be?
nine.
What would
I'm a
you be
5'9"
playing?
Persian guy, so it's not going to work for me.
You
Um,
never know.
but yeah, I mean, I love all sports: soccer, basketball. I don't know how my body does with it, but in my mind,
Oh,
I'm
you're
good at that.
young. You're young. You're fine. What are 3 words that Ali would use to describe you, your wife?
Ooh, that's a good
I'm
question.
so excited to meet her.
Definitely intense and driven. She knows kind of that I'm a little bit crazy. I think she would say intellectual curiosity. Like I'm always a learner and I'm always trying to, really kind of be a student and everything and absorb everything. And I hope she would say humility and respectful. I think she
Yeah.
would. I suffer from imposter syndrome, Shauna, and so I'm very, very humble and grateful. I've been very lucky throughout my life. And so it's something that is really important to me to just make sure that that comes through.
Yeah. And what is a good piece of advice that you feel like you've received? And if you want to share, who is it from?
I don't have a specific thing to call on. I'm very, very fortunate to have Raj Singh in my life. He is somebody I look up to, a mentor. I walk away from every single interaction with him where I'm like, wow, that was really profound. And it just kind of levels me up. And so whether it's personal, professional, family, being a dad, I'm pretty damn lucky that I have a guy like that in my corner.
Well, and Jill too. She's just the
Jill's
coolest.
incredible. Jill's
She's
incredible.
incredible. Who would you want to have dinner with? They can be alive. They could have passed on.
Oh, that's a good one. I would love. I'm into Persian history and Iran and a lot of just given my background. I was born in Iran. I'd love to have a conversation with the Shah's son. I think it'd be an interesting
Well,
conversation.
he's meant to take over. I mean, he's going to be a temporary
There's
CEO.
There's a lot going on right now in the world, but he would be an interesting conversation from a kind of geopolitical and international,
Yeah.
and he's, obviously just given the connection to Iran.
Do you have family there?
Yeah, I mean, all my family's there, with the exception of my mom that's here. Yeah, I mean, I used to, Shauna, I would go there. I was born in Esfahan, which is outside of below Tehran. Used to be the capital of Iran. One of the most ancient cultures, beautiful, like the hospitality of the Iranian people. You know this.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Oh,
and
I have
given,
so many stories of, like, messing up taro and, like,
yeah, Tano thing, yeah, totally.
I'm just yeah. I get it
But
now, 25 years into being married to somebody Persian, but,
well, I will tell you, like, entrepreneurs, risk takers, brilliant people, educated, warm. Everybody called each other aunt and uncle, and like whether you're blood family or not, it's very collectivistic, looking out for each other. Amazing food, cultural traditions. It's heartbreaking. I mean, seeing what's going on over there is really heartbreaking. I was born in the middle of the Iran and Iraq war, and my mom and I at that time, and my mom, credit to my mom, she had a lot of courage and wanted to get out of the country in the mid '80s, and so we came as refugees. But so I feel a weird, Shauna, like a survivor's guilt, where there's no courage like in what I'm doing, like even in the startup sense or the things that I'm doing here. Like I see what
Mhm.
people are putting on the line in the streets there and what they're fighting for. That bravery and that courage is it's
There's
hard
really
to.
no words for it. I mean,
There's no
it's kind
words.
of how
There's
old
no
were you
words.
when you came over?
I was young. I was about 2 or 3 years old, and we went from Iran to kind of all different places. We were in Vienna, we were in Ankara, in Turkey. We went to Geneva, Switzerland. I have some family in Geneva and in Lyon and in France. But it was all kind of, these were basically refugee camps, and we then came to the States kind of late '80s.
Mhm. And when you say your mom, did your dad come too?
No, I mean it was my mom, basically kind of like a single mother. My dad ended up coming later. I have a pretty wild kind of journey and dysfunctional family. My dad came later. He didn't do well here. He was incarcerated and kind of in and out of prison. There was a lot that was going on, and I constantly think about like my mom coming here in the late '80s and doesn't speak a lick
Can
of.
you imagine? I
I mean,
mean,
she was
literally.
like 25, 26 years old. She had this little 2-year-old. This to this day, I'm trying to figure it out, Shauna. There's a beautiful family that sponsored us in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Know nothing about them. They took us in. We lived in like a basement, basically, for 2, 3, yeah, for like 2, 3 years.
I'm
Well,
like, I have chills. I did not know. When I asked you to be on the podcast, it's because of like who I'm meeting right now. And this is my favorite part about this podcast. I get to talk to people and I'm like, holy shit, wait, what? Like, I didn't know that.
and I don't talk much about it. It's just one of those things to where I see what this woman did, where my mother, and she's just taking this risk. She's getting out of, this was post the Shah the revolution,
Oh, yeah.
and so the country just completely changed. She wanted out. She wanted a better future for her son and for herself. And she's a young kid. She's in her 20s. We didn't have anything, like not a dollar to her name. We didn't have. She didn't speak the language. Like think of the courage. And then we settled in Sioux Falls. She saw a Persian community and heard of it in Seattle. We came to the Seattle area, kind of lived all around, did the whole welfare Section 8 low income housing thing in Bellevue out of all the places, which is kind of a bizarre. So yeah, it was quite the upbringing.
Wow. So I'm guessing how you've been raised has informed in some way. And then you meet your wife who was raised here, like your parenting with three kids. How do you, because you're so humble and so I can feel it almost like physically through the phone, like your gratitude for your life. I feel like that is something that people talk about happiness linked with gratitude. If you can just recognize what you have. But if you didn't ever not have it, it's like hard to feel that and teach that to your children. How do
Yeah.
you kind of incorporate these strong values that your mom obviously instilled in you into your own kids?
Shauna, we talk about this every day. Like this is the number one thing that my wife and I talk about. Her and I grew up very different. By the way, I don't see my journey as like, oh my God, I feel bad for myself. It was I feel really lucky, and I feel a deep, deep sense of like gratitude. Everyone has helped me along the way, including people like Raj, and there's just been like real human angels that have had my back. And so it's been one of those things to where it's just a deep sense of just feeling very lucky. And then in terms of parenting, yeah, I mean, it's like it's something we talk about all the time because one of the things that I feel like is the only superpower I have is I've been through the ringer, and so whether it's grit, resilience, being uncomfortable, whatever you want to call it,
Right, you're like,
um,
"This is nothing." Like, going out and
yeah, like
fundraising, you're like,
correct.
"Really?"
Like it's stress and good pressure or good stress or whatever it is. But you feel like, when you've been through a lot of different challenges in your life, you build a muscle and some tolerance to that. And the one thing that my wife and I talk about all the time is like, we want our kids to fail. We want our kids to be uncomfortable. We
100%.
want our kids to build that
The resilience
grit and
muscle, yeah.
resilience. And it's a little hard to do that, and so like we always talked about it, like, do we give them like artificial challenges and like create artificial obstacles, which is kind of weird. And we've been lucky. Our kids are incredible. That they're grounded. They get where they live and what's going on. And we make it a point. It's really important to us that respect, humility, making sure they understand that like life is bigger than Kirkland, Washington. Anything you have, be super grateful, work your ass off, whether it's in school, at sports, in anything, treat everybody with a ton of respect. And so my wife is a million times better than I am. And so it's one of those things to where I just like, I follow her lead.
Yeah. How did you guys meet?
We went to high school together. So
Oh, so how
yeah,
old were you when you moved to this area, to Washington?
I've been in Washington since like 1990, 1991,
Yeah.
but we were all around. We were in Linwood, we were in Rainier area, and then I basically I grew up in Bellevue. So
Yeah.
my elementary, middle school, high school was
Yeah,
in
so you
Bellevue.
think of this area as home.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. I was raised here.
And is your mom still alive?
Yeah. She's still alive. We wouldn't have had three kids without her. She's a huge help. We keep getting her closer and closer to us. So we moved her.
Yes.
She's less than a mile away now in
That's
Kirkland.
great.
She makes us food all the time. My wife
Love
and
it.
my mom are really, really close, which is very lucky. So yeah, she's still around.
Yeah, I'm very close to my mother-in-law too. I so appreciate her, and she so compliments my own mom in a different way. We have a completely different type of grandma,
Yes.
and they both bring so much to their grandkids. So it's great. So when you were little, I guess maybe let's talk high school. You guys have been together since high school, like this whole time?
We dated our senior year of high school. She went off to WSU. We dated our freshman year of college, and we ended up taking some time. We
Yeah.
we broke up. We were kids, and it was like
Yeah, of
we were going
course.
pretty
Did
hard.
you go to school to college, or did you go right into the restaurant world?
So I did at that time. I think it was Bellevue Community College. I think it's Bellevue College now. I did a couple semesters, and then I ended up dropping out, and I ended up working in the restaurant industry.
Do you think that when you talk about imposter syndrome, do you think that that's a value or something that you're like, oh, that's like a mark on me? Or do you feel like, who gives a shit? Because I've got these kids that, I mean, I'm spending, God only knows, 80, 90 grand to have my kids go to school. And a little bit like, with the anti-Semitism that we've experienced over the last couple of years, combined with, with AI and all the things coming out, I'm like, is this even necessary? Because I can already tell they're going to be just fine. And they have strong work ethics, and they get it, and they know how to talk to human beings. I'm like, that seems like the most important, curiosity, all these kind of values. Or is it still super important to get a degree? Clearly not, because you've been
Oh,
very
I'm
successful.
not the right person. Well, I will say like it was a hard journey, hard path. It's an interesting question. I definitely had a non-traditional, journey, and you got to bust your ass. You got to work hard. I decided to not, it was kind of a luxury for me, Shauna. Like I went and started working to help my mom, but I see a lot of value either way. I think it depends on the person.
Well, I mean, I've been in recruiting for over 30 years, and I see massive value in when I find people that have worked in hospitality,
Yeah,
retail, anything where they're working close with the customer and having to create very strong kind of operational expertise and understanding kind of how things work. I'm very drawn to those types of people more than, I worked in New York around all these pedigreed resumes with people
sure.
who didn't have a sense of themselves, or were just
Yeah.
like, I don't know, I was told I was supposed to go work at Goldman, so I did it, but I hated. I actually wanted to be a whatever, a vet, and I ended up going into investment banking. I've seen it all through recruiting, and so I don't have an opinion. I just was
Yeah,
curious your opinion.
whether you're like properly educated or whatever it is, you still need immersive work experience. Like I was a part of a Harvard Business School case review where I'm sitting in and I'm seeing kind of like how they're doing this. At that time, I was owning an actual restaurant. I owned a restaurant. In this situation, I'm sitting in a room with Harvard business grads, or and they're pretending to be the CEO of Ben and Jerry's. There's a case study methodology, and they have kind of SKUs and products that aren't moving. And what would you do theoretically, and how would you do this? In the back of my head, I'm like, this isn't how business works at all. Like theoretically, like the reality is there's so many moving parts, personnel. It's not just like accounting and finance and a couple like
Yeah,
moving parts. Like it's there's a million things to consider. And I just remember walking away, I was like, holy shit, like I have such a leg up on these people,
100%.
because what's going to happen when your theory doesn't work? And what's going to happen in application when you got to manage people, there's processes, there's things you got to do that you got to go challenge, there's failure that's going to happen where your play didn't work and you have to pivot. And so the one thing that I felt was a superpower was like, great, I got this kind of grit, determination, hard work. I know that I always would kind of, it was almost a chip on my shoulder, like this underdog mentality, where it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm not formally educated. And so it just made me kind of
A little
work
like,
my
"How you
ass
like
off.
me now?"
Well,
Yeah.
I still haven't
No,
done
I'm
anything
just
yet,
teasing.
Sean.
No, no.
And so, like, it's just one
No,
of
no,
those
I
things to
get
where,
it though. I get it. I've had, like I said, a lot of people on the podcast, a lot of people who have either been immigrants or have something in their life that have created a little bit of this underdog mentality. And you're not the first person to talk about that mentality. And it is sometimes what fuels people to be like, whatever it is, it doesn't mean that you've got anger. It just means that there's something that's pushing you and driving you
yes,
because you know
yes,
what's possible, and nobody based on a resume or based on some diploma is going to question it. And so I'm always just curious about it because there's also people that have the Harvard MBA that are like, I ask, would you go back and do it again? What did you get out of it? Why did you go to Harvard? This whole podcast for me is the curiosity of like the whole kind of how people make decisions, why they make decisions, and not to make assumptions about people. You had to help out your mom. Okay. The end. But
yeah.
look at this amazing experience. Tell me about the restaurant. What kind of restaurant did you own?
Yeah, so when I dropped out of school, he wasn't my blood uncle, but I called him my uncle. He owned a few restaurants at the time. It was a franchise model. It used to be called, I think it still exists. It was a Romeo's Pizza and Pasta, and they were all independently owned. And it was a franchise, I think, across Washington and Oregon and maybe Northern California. He just needed somebody to kind of that he trusted to go and do like basic balance sheet books, accounting. And so I did that behind the scenes, kind of a back office function, and I really fell in love with the P&L and the business side of this around like,
Interesting.
I was never like a food guy and wanted to be into the restaurant piece. It was just like, oh, this is interesting. I can see where there's ways to where you can increase revenue and sales. You can go build house accounts. Oh, you can, drive more dollars to the bottom line. You
Mhm.
figured out I was learning about, real time. I was learning about business in terms of margins and food costs and labor and phasing and all these different things. And so he quickly saw that and he goes, hey, listen, I know you don't have any experience and you're just doing kind of more of an accounting and finance thing for me. Crazy idea. And at this time I was 18, 19 years old. He's like, why don't
Oh,
you?
shit.
Yeah, he was like, why don't you? There's 3 locations. Why don't you be the GM of all these and just help me?
Oh my god, at age 18?
And there was hundreds of employees, front office, back office, and I started to just dig in, and I learned all the different functions, and like from what the dishwasher was doing to what the server was doing to what the bartender,
Oh my,
it
you're
was just.
every person's dream. Like, I have several friends who own lots of restaurants. They would die to find someone like you.
Well, and I figured the only way I'm going to learn this and be valuable to him was like to really understand what was going on. And I immediately came in, and you can imagine, I'm not of age to drink at the
Yeah,
bar
yeah.
that I'm quote unquote managing. And so I had to come in with a ton of humility and gratitude with the people that were working there. Is like, hey, like you guys, I need to learn and teach me. And so I did that for about a year and a half, and there was a unique opportunity to where there was a restaurant that was for sale, a part of the franchise in Factoria in Bellevue, and I went and took a loan out, and I decided that I was going to go and take it on, and it was a really incredible experience. You're working like 100 hours a week. You are accounting and finance. You are sales and
You're
marketing.
everything.
You
Yeah, you're the
are
Swiss Army knife,
you're
everything.
everything, and that's just the only way I know. And so it was an incredible experience. ended up selling the company or selling the business. And then I ended up doing kind of more, I would say, restaurant consulting work for a while. I fell in
Mm,
love with this, like, how do we scale the business or move things? And so I'd work with owners and operators and kind of help them with their goals. 9 times out of 10, it would lead to, hey, can you come and be the director of operations? Hey, can you
basically,
come in?
yeah.
And so I did that for some of the local places. Just to shout out Osteria La Spiga, which was a fine dining place in Seattle, which was a kind of an authentic Italian restaurant. Then we opened a best new restaurant at that time called Milagro Cantina, which was an authentic Mexican restaurant. Me and a really well known chef, the chef Chris Peterson, so shout out to him. And we built these restaurants, and we would really look at how we can scale them, make them high volume, and drive. Really, it's restaurants are. I have a deep passion for operators and small business owners because it's a game of pennies and margin. The
Yeah.
margins are
You would
tight.
love a really good friend of mine, Mark Chatalis. He runs the Cactus restaurants and then they have Tavern
Yeah,
Hall.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But he's an incredible operator. And he and I have met before and talked about how he operates business. I mean, we are talking down to every detail. He's just an incredible operator.
I mean,
And he's very
someone
private.
at
So he
that
probably wouldn't
scale.
even want me to talk about his
Well,
his
so that,
abilities, but
like,
I'm blown away by him.
deep respect for him and what he's done, because it's very hard, like, to do what he's done, and it's very different than, let's just call it, the startup tech world, or just even when you're in these environments where you're raising capital and you have runway and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
That's not in the small
That's not
business
it. Yeah,
world.
no, it's real
You-
time. It's
every
high
day
pressure. It's thin
every day you wake up with
margins.
zero
Yeah.
sales, and you got to go earn it every single day. You got competitors all around you. You have to make sure that you're excellent in terms of how you're delivering your service. And it's just like, even whether it's your teriyaki spot, your cleaners, like, I have deep, those are, to
Everything.
me, those
Yeah.
those people are the unsung heroes that I just look at every day. I'm like, wow, like,
Yeah.
that's
And
pretty
you're
damn
just also
incredible.
one bad experience away and you can't control everything. You could have like a bad tasting thing or a hair in a piece of, and then you get a bad review. I mean, you just have to be so on your game. And
Yes,
the
yes,
hours of the industry are just insane.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's been very, very successful. So how did you end up transitioning out? Because that's also kind of an addictive lifestyle from what I've been told. I've never worked in a restaurant. It's kind of, I feel like I'd be a good bartender.
I
I would
think,
just want to
yeah.
chit chat. I would get confused and forget that I was making,
The
but I would
tickets would be
like,
piling up.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd be like, oops, sorry, I got distracted.
Yeah, so I feel like I kind of hit a ceiling in the restaurant industry, having been the director of operations, GM, and an owner operator, and I was just wanting more. And I would, candidly, I would see my wife. My wife was an educator; she's a teacher, assistant principal, and she would come home and she was just so happy. Like, it was a hard work, but she was just, like, so fulfilled. And around that time, we were, like, in our late 20s or whatever it was, and we were talking about having a family. I'm like, I can't, like, this would be hard to do in this lifestyle. And I also want to just kind of maybe think about how I can translate some of these skills into a new world field. And I'll be honest with you, like, that's where the story with Raj began. Just meeting him and being a pest and bugging him and really
How
getting
did you
on
meet
his
him?
radar. I used to be the general manager of 520 Bar and Grill, and that block had what's called Old Bellevue Merchants Association. So it's basically all the merchants there in Main Street in Bellevue. I was a part of kind of the OBM. It's like a board that you go in for the city, and you would go kind of on behalf of the merchants, vote for anything, right? I initially met Raj. I knew of Raj and Mike Hilton and what they were building. Of course, they're legends and local scene and even bigger than that. And so I had a lot of friends that worked at Concur, and so I heard a lot about Raj. But the first time I remember meeting him was actually at the Old Bellevue Merchants Association. He was presenting because Concur was going to move from Redmond to downtown Bellevue. And so it was basically saying, like, hey, there's a new company coming into the area. As a merchant, we were excited. That's more foot traffic, and that's, all good stuff. And I don't think he'll even remember this. He just, like, these were he just blew everybody away. He was talking about Concur and the story. He was just so incredible, and I remember just trying to beeline to him and just introduce myself. I just wanted to, like, this. I just saw this person. I was like, man, this
Good
guy's
for
incredible.
you. I love
Um,
this story.
and having a coffee to getting his number to bugging him and, just staying close and just giving me a shot, and so I learned more about what Raj wanted to do next, and going into Accolade and really doing something that's more mission driven around healthcare. And so the opportunity is like, hey, why don't you come join Mike and I at Accolade, this healthcare company that I didn't know anything about, and we're both going to learn healthcare together. You're going to get front row seats, and you're just going to kind of see it play out. And over time, you'll go into more of an operating role, but just come support Mike and I, and then we'll see kind of how it goes. And to this day, Shauna, he's been a man of his word. He's always believed in me well before I even believed in myself. He's always pushed me to expand my thinking, and the same mentality I had when I was trying to land the restaurant industry. He's like, hey man, like do the most uncomfortable roles in this business. Go learn product and tech. Go learn implementations, sales and marketing. Like be well rounded, understand
How
things
did
in
you
and
do
out.
that? Because I mean, I'm always telling my kids those types of things. And, back in those days, because that was 2015, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure they would just be like chat GPT everything, use AI to just kind of summarize everything. But did you use it through actual research or getting in front of humans and being like, let me take you to coffee and get like a day in the life, or let me observe you all day? Like, how did you do
Yeah,
it?
Accolade. It was interesting at that time. It was kind of at best product market fit. It was a few customers, and it was this high touch white glove concierge like service that we were essentially starting out. We were the back of the card that you would contact for claims, billing, benefits kind of support. But it was the whole concept was is be white glove, high touch, and which was a different concept at that time. What was
Hmm.
called advocacy and navigation, but it was very much dependent on humans in a contact center, an engagement center of clinicians and care advocates. And so that's all operations, Shauna. Like that's like same like you have sequence of service for a restaurant where there's a process, like your friend that runs Cactus and Tavern Hall, he can tell you
Yeah.
like that person is very systematic thinker. Like he
Oh,
understands that
beyond.
it's actually really impressive, like breaking things down and understanding that supply chain. So I just started to learn. I was like, okay, I have an operational background. This is operations. It's a different kind of service
But
delivery
the
model.
learning in the form of like you're just sitting there and you're kind of almost like whiteboarding out, like, okay, walk me through your
Both,
workflow,
both. It's
everything.
like, hey, I need to be in it with you guys, and sit alongside and observe, and then we need to start to kind of capture and break it down. And it's a term people say a lot but I get it. This first principle is kind of thinking of like, all right, let's start from scratch here. And a lot of times people have tribal knowledge or they're doing things because of just like how they think it's
It's
supposed to
just
be.
inherent in like how they learned
It's
it. Yeah.
correct. And so then you realize like, okay, we're breaking this down. We're understanding where there's gaps, opportunities, where we
Hmm.
need to write some stuff down, where we can optimize for certain things. And so I started to kind of fall in love with that. And the best way for me to impact that and drive, support from an automation perspective and really scaling our service delivery model at that time was in a product and technology capacity. And so I
Yeah.
went in and I started to kind of really learn and figure out how to create requirements for our engineering team, starting to understand more of the tech stack and architecture and working with brilliant engineers. Everything about my story is working. I'm always working with people that are a million times smarter than I am. And I'm just putting in hard work to try to catch up and figure out how I can
Hmm.
add value. And so
Yeah.
that's what I did at Accolade. And it led to, some incredible opportunities to where I ended up heading up our AI and platform initiatives. And again, it was nothing had to do with me. It was I worked with people that were much more smarter and brilliant individuals where we stayed focused on our goals, delivering an incredible experience at scale.
I mean, the scale is crazy. It's like supporting millions of, high stakes healthcare interactions that you're dealing with like every single day. And at that scale, like using humans combined with AI, I'm sure that there's this rub of like just kind of like how much data is too much data and what are we actually getting from this data? And so was that part of your job too? Is like how do we
Yeah,
simplify this so we don't get so
totally.
overwhelmed in the data?
Yes, yeah. Myself along with others, again, smarter people than me, we would sit down and say, okay, what is our secret sauce is the fact that we're able to actually we have brilliant physicians, clinicians, care advocates, and specialists. How do we leverage them up the value chain? We don't want them doing mundane administrative tasks. They're highly paid as they should be because of their skill set and delivering kind of top of license expertise. Well, let's make sure that they're working and we're pairing up our human expertise with the highest value types of touch points. And so we broke all that down and we figured out, okay, there's people, process, and technology. How do we really anchor it around this experience, and how do we build technology that can support and up level people, and more importantly, drive clinical outcomes and member engagement. To your point, when Raj, Mike, and I started at the exact same day, at Accolade, and at that time it was a few 100,000 lives, I believe, we were supporting, and by the time we left, we were 15 plus million lives. We did the whole kind of you know private to public thing, and it was there was some incredible acquisitions we made that expanded our TAM into actual care, moving into virtual primary care services and expert medical opinion. So owning more of the supply chain to deliver real outcomes to our members. But it was incredible. But the one thing that I will tell you was, I'm sitting here making it sound like this incredible success story. There was a lot of challenges. We learned a ton, and that's why kind of the light bulb went off where we wanted to create Scala and look at some of the gaps that we wish that we had and were able to
Yeah.
address, in our past life.
I mean,
So
it sounds like your personality, I don't know you well enough, but it's like, at least for me, I want to use AI and I use it every day. And we're building out AI consulting in our business and it's very exciting. But I want it to create almost like a less is more mentality
yeah,
for me where I can just, because I'm a very net, give me the bottom line. My brain doesn't work super operationally like yours. And so I want to use AI to kind of synthesize information and then just give me the bottom line of where my eyeballs need to go versus making my life more complex because I get overwhelmed by that complexity. So if I'm understanding your business, Scala, you started it when, and tell me who's involved in the funding and like where's Raj fit into all this?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, he plays a big role. So
Okay,
Raj
good.
is Raj is the co-founder of the company. He's the co-founder and executive chair of Scala. Scala was formed in the last summer, so it was July
So
of
summer
2025.
2025. Okay.
That's right. Yeah. We just recently came out of stealth and announced our seed funding. So we have about 8.5 million of funding to date. Madrona and Fuse, some incredible VC firms, local VC
Yeah.
firms
Who at
are
Madrona
involved.
and who at Fuse?
Matt McElwain and
Okay.
Kellen Carter. So Kellen has been on
Okay.
your show as well.
Yeah. So
Um,
has Matt. We love
and
both of those
so is
guys.
Matt. Both
Yeah.
those guys, I pinch myself. I'm like, man, I get to, like, these are the people
Oh,
that are
I'm
behind
jealous.
this.
I'd be like, and are they taking board seats
Both
also?
both have board seats. They're both brilliant. I
Oh my
uh
God.
I
I'm
I
so
text them all
jealous.
the time. I'm bugging them. I'm asking them questions. And I get to tap into their brilliance as well. So what you're gonna hear here, the theme is I'm lucky.
Those are some of my favorite people. That's awesome. And Kellen, they're cool. Like I want to hang out. I want to
They're
be just a fly
amazing.
on the
They're
wall.
amazing. And they're so supportive and founder friendly, and
Oh
behind the
yeah.
scenes. And I get direct access to Raj, who's my
Oh
mentor,
yeah.
that's involved in all this. And Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton's a part of our board. He's a backer investor. So it's like
Yeah.
I don't deserve any of this stuff. This
You
is
do
this is
deserve it. Stop with that. Stop with that. So
but
what's been the hardest part so far? Strategically, personally? I mean, was it
yeah.
fundraising? Is it finding talent? Is it what is the challenge here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's a good question. I think some of this is it's a startup, right? Like, and you're building something from scratch, so you want to move as fast as humanly possible. It's pretty cool because the speed of product development and velocity, like
Crazy.
you just get to go as fast as you want. You get to, kind of fail fast, fail forward, which is awesome. There's about 15 of us, so there's a team of incredibly talented engineers, and the challenges I would say, Shauna, is like just making sure that we stay super focused on what the goal is, which is delivering real value to businesses, getting out of any of this kind of hype cycly stuff that is tied with AI. You said something that really, I would say, spoke to me in a way. Is AI is just a tool, and AI done right is actually very seamless. The UI should be very intuitive. You shouldn't care about the technology underneath the hood. And so for us, the way we've built this is it's a love letter and love story to operators. Like, this is me basically, us building something because we understand the gravity of running a contact center at scale. And there's so many decisions that these operators have to make. They keep the lights on, they own the end experience. It's the largest cost center on the P&L. And we believe that they deserve technology that is really meant and built for them. They're not the issue, it's the systems that are broken. And so one of the kind of core things that's really important is we've built it in a way that's pretty intuitive and seamless and like simple, to be honest. Not too flashy. Like, we're operators, we are technologists, but it's really important that we're speaking their language because we've been on their side of the table.
Take it back for a second because now
Sure.
let's pretend, okay, so your kids are 4, 6, and 8, you said?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So now what do they think you do? And explain it like you're explaining it to them because AI can be very overwhelming and confusing.
Yeah, so Scala is we're building the essentially the future of intelligent operations and customer experience for the modern contact center enterprise. And so contact centers are customer support functions. So anytime you call or message or have any interaction with any type of, whether it's you're dealing with retail or banking, or travel, healthcare, there's some engagement back and forth that's happening with humans, and some experience that you're having. And so behind that is a really robust contact center and customer support function that is delivering that service across, like we talked about, people, process, and technology. So what we do is we help the operators who are running that business with a comprehensive platform that they can actually have insights, drive better experiences, and more importantly, have kind of an operating system that allows them to really run their business in a better way. We have healthcare customers on the healthcare side, and so what they'll purchase our solution because, one, they're delivering a service to their members or patients, and so they want to drive it. They want to deliver a service with high NPS, CSAT, high quality, but they also want to do it in a way that's operationally efficient and in high margin. And so what we do is we sit down with them and create a profile of their business and their value chain, their supply chain. And we say, hey, we don't want to replace your people. We actually want to utilize them better. And then there's areas to where there's really no need to have people in this band. Let's level them up and put them in level 2, level 3 of work instead of level 1. And so we can deploy purpose-built, pre-built agents that can really help offset the cost and get them working, at the top of their license. And so there's what we call, agentic process automation, conversational AI. We have an AI coworker product that is basically like a ops chief of staff that you have at your fingertips. We call Pulse Assist. And we have a performance intelligence module that is kind of performance of your people, of your business, the health of your business, that gives you deeper insights and allows you
Interesting.
to,
So it's
yeah,
covering a lot of stuff. So are you
yes.
calling into, you kind of mentioned a lot of different sectors and industries. Who's your target customer base right now?
So right now it's healthcare, travel, and financial services banking. But obviously there's going to be heavy emphasis on healthcare given our
Yeah,
decades of
your network.
experience.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Interesting. And where are you? You've got the 15 people. Where are you as far as establishing what those attributes are of your future team? Like what
Yeah.
makes somebody successful at your company?
So you heard it already. Humility, respect, gratitude. That's important. And authenticity, intellectual curiosity. Like, we're not going to bring people on the team that think they know everything and have an
Mm,
ego and
those people are the
and
worst.
they
The
can't. I
culture
can't do it.
killers. They're the
Yeah,
I can't
I
either.
can't do it. I don't care about the I don't care about any of that stuff. Like, you got to be able to, roll your sleeves up, and you're not better than anybody else. And then I got to be honest with you. Like, is grit. Like, are you a dog? Like, do you have the dog and heart in you? Because we're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna move fast. How do you do in challenging environments like a startup? It is a startup at the end of the day. We gotta win. We gotta position ourselves to do the right thing for our customers. And we're gonna. Are you a doer? Are you a problem solver? There's no room for strategists. There's no room for you got to wear different hats. And are you willing to roll your sleeves up and make
Mhm.
something special happen? Of course you have to have you know hard and soft skills, and of course you have to be an incredible engineer and product or sales and marketing, no doubt. But those intangibles are actually some of the things that are is something that's pretty critical at Scala in terms of how we're building the team, because it comes through in the product we're building too.
And how does it come through in an interview? How are you able to screen for that?
Yeah, good question. A lot of people that are involved at Scala are people that I trust from my past life that we've worked together. I'm trying to guess, like, probably of the 15, there's maybe two or three that I didn't know, and but there was a lot of making sure they're the right fit, and spending many hours with them, understanding who they are in and out. I mean, it is. people talk about like work-life balance and all that kind of stuff all the time. Like it's a startup. So
Yeah.
it's for, you
If
got
they
to have
start
the
talking about
stomach for
that,
this.
that's like hit the eject button.
Right. You got to have the stomach for this. Like you
Yeah.
got to be high appetite for risk. You got to
Yeah.
understand kind of what you're playing for and the pace we want to move. So, those come through in terms of, it's not like a one-time interview. It's just really understanding, getting to know them and what moves them.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And so you talked about work-life balance. Obviously, you've got the 3 kids. How has fatherhood and the kind of this chapter of your life changed you and changed kind of what matters or what kind of outcome? And then along those same lines, I guess when we're talking about AI, and you sound like you've got a very good kind of perspective on it, obviously from your experience, but just your overall outlook, how does it change how you look at AI as far as the world that your kids are going to inherit? And then
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like what's their work going to look like when they're 18?
Yeah.
Those
I'll
are
start with
two
the,
separate
yeah.
questions. Sorry.
I'll start with the work life piece and just being a parent. And first of all, it's been the most amazing thing in my life. I grew up, I told you a little bit about how I grew up, and I was kind of like by myself, surviving, doing my thing, and my mom was always working. And so the fact that we get to have this big family and a lot of love in the house, and it's not dysfunctional, and we're creating kind of a stable environment, that's everything to me. And I'll be honest, I'll just be very vulnerable with you. Is like pre-kids, I just thought about myself. You're kind of self-absorbed, self-centered. You're really trying to move, whatever you think is important to you at that time. The moment I had kids, it was just a beautiful thing for me. I got to just be, it's all about them. It's like it's in anything I do, like, taking on a startup is like, it's really to show them like, hey, I preach a lot about hard work and being uncomfortable. Like, I want to practice what I preach. I don't want to, and I want you to see me struggle and see me try to build something from scratch. And of course, like they were critical to this decision. Before Raj and I even started talking about this, he's like, hey, like this decision is really not on you, Artie. It's on your wife and kids. And so like you got to go talk to them and make sure that this is your wife blesses and approves this. And my wife's amazing. Like she's ride or die. She's incredible. She knew that this is where I want to be, and she fully supports that. And she also knows that, my kids are going to see this, and they're going to see what both Ali and I are doing and how and so it's just kind of leading by example. And so, that's on that front. And then in terms of how we make time, like there's no such thing as work life balance to me. Like I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm perfectly balanced or I'm grinding 24/7. I'm just very intentional with my time. So yeah, just a lot of quality time with the family. And then in terms of where do I kind of see the world going, like right now, it was obviously it still is popular to make sure your kids understand coding and computer science and engineering as kind
That's
of a
gone out the
core thing.
door.
That's a little bit gone out the door, but I will tell you, being 8, 6, and 4, it's funny, like the space I'm in, and if you come to our house, like they don't get screen time. We're gonna be kind of, I'm gonna guess we're gonna be a little bit late in terms of
Phones
getting
and
some of
social
these
media
things, yeah, in
and
front of
yeah,
them. Just 'cause we
smart.
want to just try to move it as much as we can, of course, without like isolating them
Yeah.
as they get older. But I think some of the core things are, they stay true, like, math, social skills, reading, writing. And then obviously, like everybody is going to be working with AI. AI is the new UI. AI is the new way you're supposed to be working in this new world. And so you can't ignore it. You have to
Yeah.
embrace it. You have to lean in. You have to understand personally and professionally what it means for you. And for our kids growing up, they're going to be, it's just going to be like first nature to them.
Yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
looking at my daughters and my son, like they're going to be power users of it, so I feel like they're going to really kind of take it to the next level. I think the
Yeah.
big question is there's other forces around it, which are, we as a society, what do we want the role of technology to be as it advances in terms of like social dynamics, and if it's
Everything.
and so it just becomes this like really interesting conversation that comes
Yeah.
into the home.
Well, I think I'm finding people want connection more than ever. And it's like teaching your
Yes.
kids all those soft
Yes.
skills is going to be more essential than ever. You don't want little bots running around that are like, little robots. That's not good. So outside of your kids, outside of your wife, outside of work, like what grounds you? Like we all have our shit. We all have our thing that like, or what do you do to kind of let it rip and unwind or just kind of get out of all this?
But yeah, I'm a big fan of long walks. I work out. I'll go on runs in the neighborhood, or early mornings I'll work out. I don't have a set routine. I try to get it in the mornings early, or obviously there's a little bit more flexibility on the weekends. But doing this sounds kind of crazy. Like doing very painful, suffering, and uncomfortable things, like running and pushing yourself. It's just releases. It's a great release for me.
That's great. Well, I'm super grateful for your time. I'm mindful of it and I want to let you go, continue to crush it. So I'm going to ask you my final question, which is what fuels you?
It's my kids 100%, and just making them proud. And as they get older, they can see that, their dad busts his ass and he tried to make things happen. Regardless of the result or outcome, it's just trying to be somebody that they can be proud of.
Thank you for listening to the What Fuels You podcast. If you'd like to check out past episodes to hear from more business leaders, go to fueltalent.com/podcast. And if you have a minute, please leave a review and rating on your favorite podcast app, or share this episode with a friend or colleague. Please share any feedback or interview suggestions for other guests by sending a message to podcast@fueltalent.com. I'm Shauna Swerland, and thanks again for listening.